Pro, abbreviation for professional, which in turn stands for something or someone that's competent or skilled in a particular activity. This is the second time that Huawei uses this moniker to define the most advanced version of its current flagship, but only the first time that it actually means something to brag about. I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and this is our review of the Huawei P20 Pro. The last month or so that I've spent using the P20 Pro has proven to be one of the most polarizing review periods I've ever invested in a product. In a nutshell, this phone has almost everything I could ever want in a device, and also elements that I really don't. From a hardware perspective, this is one of those phones that is really hard to go unnoticed in public. It is gorgeous. The twilight finish in our unit is as unique as can get, but also as reflective and fingerprint prone as only a mother could love, with about the only positive being that it deters fingerprints better on the screen than its predecessors. You should also prepare to handle some heft, as the dimensions all lead to a very commanding feel in the hand. One of its strong points, at least on paper, is that this is one of the most powerful phones that money can buy. The new Kirin 970 powers the show with 6GB of RAM, 128GB of non-expandable storage, dual SIM capabilities, IP68 water and dust resistance, a massive 4000 mAh battery, fast charging through Huawei Supercharger, though no wireless charging capabilities even with the glass finish. This is even one of the proud few smartphones to include an IR blaster if that's still your thing. Now, where all the uniqueness ends is once you power up the display. And no, I have zero complaints about the 6.1-inch AMOLED panel, even if it maxes at Full HD Plus resolution. I love the vibrance, and I also love how Huawei has tuned it to adapt to ambient lighting. My problem really is the unoriginality of a notch that doesn't really serve a purpose, and that is only made worse by the large chin at the bottom, regardless of the placement of the fingerprint scanner. If anything, I'll praise that even when going full screen on video, Huawei hides the notch automatically even if you choose to keep it active. Now, I've said it in the past, I really don't mind having a notch on a phone if it means life with less bezels, but the biggest problem this phone had up until a recent software update was really the implementation. One of the main reasons we chose to take our time with this review is because EMUI was clearly half-baked when it came to this new design approach. I'm happy to report that third-party applications like Instagram are no longer blocked by the notch, and Instagram stories now play well even if you choose to hide the notch as well, which is fine. It's still not perfect though, as famous apps like Spotify still leave a huge gap at the bottom of the application, and stretching to fit isn't always the best solution. And everything else, EMUI continues to be the user interface you'll either love or hate. I'm okay with it, mainly because Huawei has been quick to adopt Android 8.1 and also given it Spartan animations and fluidness. Tiny details like the inclusion of the Google feed to the left continue to be things that I find convenient, in addition to having the fingerprint scanner double as a way to navigate the user interface through gestures. Each of you will decide if you either keep it or make a jump to better solutions like Nova Launcher. If you've been using a P-series phone from Huawei prior to this one, the P20 Pro will feel like a significant improvement. Trust me on this, and I'd even pick it over the Mate 10 Pro. This is the first P-series to include dual-firing speakers that are plenty loud for content consumption. Call this more my first impressions, because in the past I would even complain about the call quality of previous P-series phones, but that's also been addressed. Elements like audio quality have also been significantly improved, though the lack of a headphone jack just throws everything down the drain. Previous software versions did show some stutter when using the phone here and there, but the latest build has this device breezing through applications and services, and if playing graphics-intensive games is your thing, this phone will not disappoint you. And really, it's not just the fact that games will play well, but really battery life on this device is just epic regardless of what you do. I've been able to push more than a day on a single charge, and then a Huawei Supercharger just takes care of the rest in less than an hour. Now, if you still haven't guessed why this phone is called a Pro, let's talk about these cameras. I even decided to do a separate video from Rome just because the experience using this camera was so unique. This is Huawei and Leica's first triple camera solution, where we have a gigantic 1.17-inch 40-megapixel RGB sensor at f1.8 aperture, a secondary 20-megapixel monochrome sensor at f1.6 aperture and OIS, and if that wasn't enough, there's also a third 8-megapixel telephoto sensor at f2.4 aperture, also with OIS. And trust me, there is no such thing as overkill here. Sure, you can take 40-megapixel photos, even in RAW if you're using Pro mode, but the cool part here is the pixel bitting that provides a 10-megapixel photo and thus allows more light in the shot. This means that you'll get the obvious great performance during the day, but also class-leading performance in low light. The monochrome sensor is there to assist in things like dynamic range, but I'm a big fan of using it for black and white photos as well, as it makes even the dullest of scenarios more elegant. Huawei makes huge claims of its AI capabilities. In my Rome video, I complained about how aggressive it was and not allowing me to easily switch it off whenever I needed to, unless I completely turned it off, which is something that I don't necessarily always want. But I'm happy to report that after the recent software update, all that was fixed. Essentials like portrait mode are also very natural when using the primary cameras, and I love that you don't have to step back to get a good shot. And hey, fun fact, given the size of the sensor, you sometimes don't even need to use portrait mode, as shallow depth of field is pretty much provided by the hardware. The same goes for selfie photos with this 24-megapixel sensor, providing a ton of versatility, and where portrait mode is good for the most part. And then I will have to admit, this is the first time that I've ever trusted a phone for zoom photography. Yes, there is 3x optical zoom, but both the 5x hybrid zoom and the 10x digital zoom solutions are also very well reproduced given the added megapixels of the primary sensor. Honestly, from everything that I've compared, there's just no room for comparison. So, what's the catch? Well, this feels like the Nikon of smartphones, where photography is amazing, but you won't feel that way about video. It lags behind in essentials like 4K video at 60 frames per second, and if you do choose to go 4K, stabilization just goes down the drain. There's also H.265 video here, but it seems that video editors don't really support it as well as they support solutions from Apple, for example. I honestly do recommend that you stick to 1080p video, where stabilization is actually really good. There's also ultra slow-mo options at 960 frames per second at 720p, but even that is really cumbersome and pretty much useless, as it'll film 10 seconds and then it'll start processing the video and not let you continue recording the moment. Those of you wanting selfie video, make sure you switch off beauty mode, and this will not only enable 1080p video recording, but also bring some really good stabilization to the selfie camera. To conclude, I think it's important for us to clarify the most essential reality of the Huawei P20 Pro, and it's the fact that it stands on a class of its own. I wouldn't even consider it fair to compare it against any other phone, mainly because it stands miles ahead when it comes to photography. Is the Huawei P20 Pro the perfect smartphone? No, but it's also not just an iteration of the P series either. I'd call this a good version 1 of what the future of smartphone photography should be. Where the Google Pixel 2 wins in computational photography, the P20 Pro wins in hardware. Man, if only Huawei could use some of the elements of Google's software, then that's when I would call this the perfect phone. The Huawei P20 Pro is definitely a phone that I would recommend you give a try. It completely changed my opinion over the future of Huawei as a smartphone brand, and it paves the way to an amazing future for the series. But then again, remember, I said the future. At the moment, this is a really good phone, but I definitely feel that we need a version 2 for this to be the perfect phone. Folks, just like this, we've got more videos in the pipeline, so make sure you follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow me on Twitter, Jaime_Rivera, on Instagram at Jaime Rivera. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.